Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. All cruelty springs from weakness. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. Thus death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. When therefore we are hindered or disturbed or grieved, let us never impute it to others, but to ourselves, that is, to our own views. It is the action of an uninstructed person to reproach others for his own misfortunes, of one entering upon instruction to reproach himself, and of one perfectly instructed to reproach neither others or himself. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Putting things off is the biggest waste of life. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. Don't seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and all will be well with you. True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us, and within our reach. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about the things which are beyond the power of our will.
Welcome, guys. This is All Minus One, and I am Bill. I see I have many new viewers in the chat, probably because of Miss Aydin Paladin here. So appreciate that, guys. Please like, share, subscribe. So today we're going to be talking about Stoicism and some juxtapositions with Christianity and how the fatalist influences of Stoicism follow forth today. And we're just going to have a conversation, guys. It's not going to be too heady. I will have some quotes. We'll go through some, but I wanted to play that introduction there. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in Aydin. So,
hello.
How are we doing, Aydin?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Always good to talk to you, man. You know, real quick, something that I was thinking about while listening to some of those quotes is: are you familiar with Rajneesh? I think Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, I think is his full name.
You mean like the people from Wild Country? Those people?
Oh, I don't know. He's
the
an
people
Indian
that took
philosopher.
over Oregon. They took over a city in Oregon for some
They
time.
probably did, but he had a lot of like some similar sayings about about abandoning some of like what people think or what people care about, and only caring about your own personal development as a person. And it's funny because I'm well familiar with Seneca and a lot of the Greek philosophers, but while listening to those, I was thinking of Rajneesh, and he has some really good quotes. And people have done some crazy stuff. Like, I'm not gonna say they were good or bad what people did in terms of making like little independent communities. Somewhere near where my dad grew up, they built a giant Hindu temple and killed themselves there. But I mean, like, I'm just saying,
Aydin, if you want to look up look into the what are they, the Bhagwas or whatever they're called, the Rajneeshians or whatever they're called.
I don't know anything about his cult. I only know about
YouTube. Or not YouTube, sorry. You might be able to find it there, though. Netflix has this mini series. It's like 4 or 6 episodes called Wild Wild Country. And in Wild Wild Country, it shows in the early 80s how this group went from India and basically bought some land in Oregon. And back in those days, Oregon was still pretty wild. It still is today, mind you. But they basically took over this town, and then they tried to start poisoning its people and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So,
well,
if none of you guys out there have seen that, go check it out. It's quite interesting. It will suck you in pretty quick.
If you're also interested and you're on the East Coast, on the other side, which is where this happened, it's something called the New Vrindaban. It's in West Virginia near Moundsville. It's a giant Hindu temple. It's closer to Ohio and Pennsylvania, if you can get to it. It's beautiful. It's still mostly maintained, but it was also I think a lot of them killed themselves at some point.
Yeah, no doubt.
Laughing out of uncomfortableness. But yeah, it's not great things have happened in some of these tiny cults. But I didn't know that about Rajneesh. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Again, laughing out of uncomfortableness.
That's funny because I wanted to bring up the reasons why we laugh actually today in part of the conversation. But real quick, John, with the comment you just left there, yes, I know about X-1. All-1, the name comes from John Stuart Mill's On Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan Haidt released through the Heterodox Academy a summation of sorts or paraphrasing of the part on liberty that covers free speech, and they called it All-1. So I kind of, appropriated that, but I thought it was a good name and a lot of what I'm trying to do here, because as I was telling Aydin before the stream, I talk about whatever the hell I feel like generally, but what I'm trying to do generally as a personality in the public sphere is to say, these are the things we've lost. Why is our society so weak? Why is it crumbling? These are the things that make strong societies. So sometimes I talk about news. Sometimes I talk about classical history. Sometimes I talk about classical liberalism. I really am into the antiquities. And the other thing I try to do often on this channel is talk about a first century Christian or second century Christian perspective, the metaphysical perspective those people had, because that's basically how I try to live my life. And modern Christianity is very different. And that's part of this conversation today, is that Stoicism has infiltrated Christianity. This began happening in the at the end of the 2nd century, but primarily in the 3rd and 4th century, and has lingered on in the, I would say, Catholic Church, the Orthodox faith to some degree, but I don't think as much as the Catholic faith, but very much so in Augustinianism. And Augustinianism in the West and Western Christianity and Protestantism and any form of Western Christianity is probably one of the most highly influential forms of Christianity, if you would. His beliefs on Christianity, and those come from Stoic beliefs. In fact, this is not a scholarly book, but we're going to look at some excerpts from this. Dr. Ken Wilson's book here on the foundations of Augustinian Calvinism, just to gloss over a few things. Now, this is a book that is a summation of his doctoral dissertation. So this is 100 pages of several thousand pages that he had to write.
Well,
yeah, but
typically it depends on your field. Like in the more scientific fields, if your doctoral thesis is over 500 pages, they start to get mad at you. But in philosophy, I'm sure if it's under 1,000 pages, they get mad at you.
Well, I don't know how long it is. Technically, I've never read it. I do want to get a copy of it eventually. But this is a kind of like a reader's edition. But I do know that this book, I think you can get on Kindle for $7-8. You can get a paperback for maybe $10 or $15. But his doctoral dissertation you can find, and it's like $100. So it's probably pretty thick. I
would imagine if it's $100, it's a probably pretty thick boy.
Yeah, and Dr. Ken Wilson is an Oxford scholar. He's also a orthopedic surgeon and other stuff. The guy's got like several PhDs. So he's he's a very nice guy. If you ever check out any of his streams or anything, like regular guy, but very intelligent, very driven to work, right? So, as far as intros go, also, and I got to do this too, guys. If you weren't aware, on YouTube and DLive, I am streaming, and they both have links in the descriptions to an Entropy. So I'm not monetized on YouTube, but you can go over to Entropy Chat. They are very free speech. You can get very spicy there if you want. You don't have to worry about me being yeeted, and you can make donations there. There's also a PayPal and the YouTube subscription if you guys so wish to do so. Otherwise, we'll just carry on as always. I want to see.
Yeah, guys,
here.
Whatever. Yeah. Oh, hey, Yiz.
Howdy.
Good to see you.
So, Aydin, let's get into it. So, first off,
very deep topic that I'm actually feeling a little bit like, it's outside of my wheelhouse, but interested to talk about either way.
We're going to go through quotes. We're going to have a dinner table discussion about it, I guess, guys. And I'll have stuff brought up here, but I did want to show before I got into it that if you guys weren't aware and you want to learn this stuff, a lot of these books I have, these are all Kindle books, are $1 or $2.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Or like if you go down here and you want to read classics, most of these, like the history of war books on the
Republic, I know the Republic's free.
Right, all this stuff, all these, this is the Persian Wars. All these books are free. Dostoevsky is not free.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
poor Dostoevsky is not free. I'm sure there's some communist making money off
I'm pretty sure it's not
in the
free.
West. No, I mean, I'm sure it's some socialist in the West making money off of Dostoevsky. That's right. Truly what would make him spin in his grave.
But if you all have never read any, I mean, there's Plato's Republic here. I have all kinds of stuff. The Narrative of Sojourner Truth, which is, I believe, a Christian book. There's all kinds of stuff here you can get for free on Kindle. I prefer, regular books, like, physical books, because I like to highlight and make notes.
That's what I like to do too.
Yeah. So my books are what you can see there, highlighted and whatever else. But
yeah, mine are unreadable. They're full of highlighting and notes. And that's why I have a hard time with digital books. But I do think they're still nice to have either way.
Let's see here. I want to see. Okay. It's probably the best I'm going to get this for your all's viewing pleasure. The best I can do. So, guys, and this is a little book that was put out. So the channel I just played, we have some articles from the video I played, I ripped, but that is from Orion Philosophy. But this is a little book that was put out by Vox Stoica and Homer Robin, I believe is the guy's name. But this is just a bunch of quotes of this stuff here. If we go into the
right, so to me,
pack of the Stoics,
Aurelius and the Seneca, and
right, it's just a a compression, which is why I'm using it. It makes it convenient. But of course, if you're into this stuff, go check out that YouTube channel. I'm not someone covering Stoicism all the time, right? So let's get into it. So this is going to be just a series of quotes and from Marcus Aurelius specifically. If you don't know who Marcus Aurelius is, he was the last great emperor of the Roman Empire. At least he's considered that, the last good emperor. And he was the last emperor.
Well, go watch Dova Hadi if you want more information about that.
he was the last emperor considered under the Pax Romana. Now, if you ask the early Christians, they would have believed that the Pax Romana existed because of them and their prayers. Which is
but there's questions about that, actually.
Well, I would say it's interesting how toward the end of the 3rd century under Marcus Aurelius, then all of a sudden the Pax Romana went away. And that's when I would say the corruption of Christianity with Greek philosophy and paganism started to happen.
Well, what happened in the interim? It was an intermingling, if you want to say that, with Northern European paganism, also with Greek paganism, and with paganism, and at that point, paganism's coming from the East. You know, all the way as far as China. We know that the Roman Empire, they did not control that far, but they certainly had influence that far. So, and we're trading that far. We found Chinese pottery dating back to that kind of period of time in those kinds of regions. Maybe not specifically as far as Rome, but I've seen some evidence to say as much. So the Pax Romana was influenced because of all of the influence that it was experiencing from a global system that was not just there are people who will say like, oh, Rome fell because of Christianity. I've heard that argument as well. I'm not so sure about that.
No, I don't think it did either. In fact, I would say it fell because of internal corruption.
Yeah.
Yiz, entropy should be up. It should be running off of DLive. I see it. It says I have 2 viewers on it. So if it's not, let me click on the link on the YouTube, see if it opens up another one for me.
Uh-oh.
No, it looks like it's showing up. It's just taking a minute to load on my system, but it should be there. So if it's not, I don't know. You refresh from the link, okay. So we'll see. In any case, Aydin and I will just chat forever. You'd spend 20 minutes.
Yeah, I guess shut me up.
So. But in any case, let's read some quotes here. So this is in a section that says, do not let unkindness disturb you. It says, when receiving bad treatment or criticism from someone, tell yourself that either the other person is right, in which case you've no right to complain, meaning you're wrong, they're right, obviously, right? Be self-reflective. Or they're wrong, in which case they're misguided and have just made a mistake. Remind yourself how many mistakes you've made in life and allow yourself to feel pity for them.
Holy shit, I wish I could make everyone on Twitter read that. You know what I mean? I started like reading Stoic philosophy when I was about 16 years old. And I feel like it has majorly influenced my life in a different way than it has than other people have been influenced in their lives. But that, please, come on now. Like there's no capacity, and part of it's psychological, right? In that to admit that you're wrong there's some evidence, causes physical pain. So that first part of just admitting you're wrong can make people feel physically as if they've suffered some injury. So that first part of that quote is difficult for a lot of people to deal with, because admitting to being wrong or admitting the other person is right can actually be physically painful. So I get that. The other one is just to say if someone else is wrong, maybe they're not evil. And that's hard to do too, because we want to externalize people, right?
Yeah.
externalize them as kind of non-people, particularly when they disagree with us on major social. So we have these social identities. Like I'm, let's say, Republican, someone else is Democrat. And we want to say, oh, well, because I'm a Democrat, then therefore Republicans are somehow non-human. So they can't be right. They can't have just made a mistake. There must be something about them that's fundamentally wrong. And that's how a social identity functions. But when you try to think like, oh, no, wait a minute, maybe they're just people and they've made a mistake. That takes a lot. All of this in this very first piece takes so much cognitive effort to do. This is almost impossible for human beings. This first point, it is almost impossible.
Yeah, and right afterwards it says, by all means, point out to them they've gone wrong, but do so affectionately, not meanly, with hatred in your heart, or to impress onlookers, speaking directly to them. So,
well, delete YouTube.
Right. Exercise some restraint and be kind to folks. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. And this is why Stoicism, as far as a philosophy, has endured for so long, because of basic tenets like this. And this is also why I think it has very much been absorbed within Christian mentalities.
Right. We're not seeing this much with many people currently, though. And I think that's why more people should read the Stoics, because this stuff, it doesn't cease to be true. And it also is something a lot of people need to maybe read just to get a better grip on how to act morally. It's not even morally, it's just as you should, outside of some kind of, because I think that a lot of people would say like moralism is inherently religiosity. It's not. It's how you should behave as a member of human society. And Stoicism is coming out of I would say, a non-religious viewpoint of that, correct?
Stoicism isn't non-religious technically. Yes and no.
Right.
It's
a yes or no.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The core tenet of Stoicism, as far as religiosity is that the gods or the fates don't really care about men, and they're going to do whatever. So it's up to you to maintain your position in life, to maintain your stoicness, right? You're just being settled. I think more than anything, what Stoicism is an example of a philosophy of masculinity. And that's why it's not seen well in today's light. Real quick, though, let me address this just because I don't know what's going on. But you said that it's linking to my other channel, the Ends Justify the Memes, the entropy. But I keep clicking it. I did bring it up on stream. So I don't want to tell you guys. I mean, I have it up. Again, I can show it to you. It's right here.
I don't know what else to do. Sorry.
Yeah, here we go. Indeed, it's working on this end. Yeah. We got another a-hole in here. So, but yes, I have trouble. I have trouble with entropy all of the time. So I not like super bad trouble, not like BitChute trouble, but enough. So, and it might be because I have two accounts and maybe they're kind of sort of cross-linked. I don't know, but if you guys want to make a donation, I know it's great if you can leave a chat.
Please
but
do.
What I'm saying, if you want to, that's the way. But if not, you can always do it over. You can always do lemons and stuff on DLive, or you can just do a PayPal. I know you prefer to get a chat in, but is what it is until my viewership grows and I really don't, I get more watch hours. I'm not going to be able to be monetized, and I really don't want to. I really don't want to monetize on YouTube. So
you could say it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I hope things work out. I don't know what's up. Shoot, now I lost my train of thought by making a shitty pun. It's completely reset my brain.
Well, we were talking about this. Why don't we, as we get into this, why don't you read the next few quotes for me?
Okay, sure.
Like clear for you? Yeah.
Yeah. If this doesn't work, ask yourself what qualities nature has given us to counter the defect. For example, as an antidote to unkindness, it gave us kindness. Put that to use and see what happens. Very few people can continually act unkindly to you if you show continued kindness to them. Not sure if that's true, but okay. If you've mistakenly trusted an untrustworthy person, then turn the reproach on yourself. The fault is yours. I do agree with that. Sorry, I gotta sneeze.
Ah, yes, Stan. There are
Jesus
two
Christ,
entropy
sorry.
links. There is an inch justify the memes, and there is um at top is this channel, and then below is the second channel, guys. So maybe that's the issue.
Oh, geez, sorry, I had to sneeze right in the middle of that
No
too. It was
worries, no
really
worries.
good.
We're
I'm
trying
sure
to
that made
figure
it.
out this other thing on the
I
side
know.
too.
I'm making it better by sneezing on your channel.
All right, so continue, Aiden. Continue.
Recognize that untrustworthy, bad, and even evil people exist in the world. To expect not to encounter them is foolish. Say to yourself, quote, I have encountered one of them. It is to be expected from time to time. Then remember that any evil that men do you only harms your soul if you do evil in return. It is your job to be good and not allow their evil to change that. Completely fucking honest. I agree 100% with every single one of those statements.
Yeah, I do too. It's not about the external. It's always about I mean, it is in the external of what you do, but the external affecting you. It's not about the outside world. I
Yes,
don't
yes.
care how terrible someone's treating you or whatever. If you have moral principles, you need to stick by them. And if you violate those moral principles, or at least in a Christian mindset, then you've uh, committed a sin.
Well, this
And
sounds
so
a bit Christian, doesn't it?
well, it does, but again, there are differences, and I can understand
Yeah.
why these things are accepted. But again, I would say more than anything, this appeals toward Roman masculinity and power.
Huh.
And guys, this is a conversation to have because I know Kizza's in our chat, and he would tell me that Bill, America is a British nation. Our culture is British, and I would agree. But all of Europe, including Britain, including the British Isles, are Roman in culture,
Yeah.
and it is the Roman world, is the Roman culture that lingers and persists.
Well, they were
And
significantly influenced. We could say it that way. They were significantly influenced by the Roman Republic and their interaction with that republic, no matter how distal it may be, such as was the case in the British Isles. I mean, certainly, you could also say that democracy, for example, as we understand the modern idea of democracy, comes from France, not from America, right? But you can understand where does that idea that influenced the French Revolution come from? Does it come from France, or does it come from exposure to the Roman Empire? I'm not sure. Does it come from exposure to ideas like this philosophically? Or I would say that, in my personal opinion, these ideas are very, very ancient. Maybe long before they were put to word, right? But this manifestation of ideas put to language is universal.
so you're laughing.
Okay.
Because I would reject it if they didn't have much of an influence, as if they effed off by 410 AD and they were backingly in the south, whatever.
No, they did fuck off pretty early, because
Well,
Rome was
not
falling
really
apart,
though.
to be fair.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is the argument. The Western Empire did fall and break apart. Byzantium existed for almost another 600 years or more.
Oh, yeah.
But they got taken out by the Islamic hordes eventually.
Islam is what took them over.
So, but the basic tenets of Romanism expanded into Europe. The whole idea of the divine rights of kings, these czars or Caesars, that came from Roman society. Look at our architecture. Look at how we use Aristotelianism, which we talked about last Tuesday a little bit with Christian.
Oh, the influence of Rome is undeniable to anyone, I think, being honest.
The United States is, look, I mean, I'm just going to say it. My opinion is the United States.
We're post-Roman society.
We are a reflection of Rome. We are Rome again. I think personally, it's just a personal view, but we are the beast that comes out of the earth in Revelation 13.
Perhaps.
Well, if you read the language of Revelation, the peoples, the waters represents the seas, the seas, the waters represent the people, the rivers, all of that. And the earth is the opposite of that, where there were no people. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. There are a lot of people that interpret that differently. I know there are many.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but it's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah,
I definitely. I mean, America is undeniably influenced by the Roman system, as were pretty much all cultures, including the UK, or what is now the UK. because of their influence and interaction with the Romans. And I mean, like, and it's all of Europe for the most part.
Right.
All at least all of Western Europe, for sure.
He
Eastern
is
Europe,
exact-
maybe not so much, but
He has left me a chat in the entropy after she figured this all out. So, a U.S. Fiverr to support the channel and request that you, erudite guest, return my Twitter DM about
what did you?
Monday in August. She would like to return to Dragons of Discord. I love you both and hope you have a great weekend.
Yes,
So-
I would. Yes, just message me again.
There you go. So let's continue. We got some more quotes here. Oh, well, that was the last of the last quote, I think.
No, so we don't have any more quotes here.
No. There are
Oh,
plenty of
okay.
more quotes. Trust me. It's just
I know.
on this page. Then remember that any evil that men do to you only harms your soul. If you do evil in return,
Yes.
it
Oh
is
my God.
your job to be good and not allow their evil to change that. And this, again, would relate to the Christian principle of turn the other cheek.
Yes, turn the other cheek. And
Yeah.
it is such a hard thing for people to do, but it is such an I think it's one of the most important rules of Christianity and Stoicism is to, when people do evil to you, if you do it back, you only perpetuate evil.
Right. And it's the Hatfields and the McCoys, right?
Mhm.
Given that we're both West Virginians.
Yeah.
Hatfields and McCoys, you have this basic blood feud that goes on forever. And what's going to stop it? And he says here, with that in mind,
nothing is really gained by this eternal kind of back and forth. And I know that it sounds cucked. I know it really does. No matter who you are, it's like that would be the modern response is you're a cuck by turning the other cheek. But in my personal experience, by turning the other cheek, you are the bigger person, and other people outside of you understand that and respect that. They see when someone has been terrible to you, and they understand that you have been the bigger person, and they respect that, even if it's not fun or funny.
Right. And well, here's the other thing with that. If you want to repay destruction with destruction, you will only get desolation, right? That you will only get
Absolutely.
Yeah, you will only get the breaking of whatever resources you're fighting over, or your society, or your soul, your family, possibly all kinds of things. Like, look, Herman Melville wrote a book about a guy going after a whale based on revenge, and it's considered a
Yep.
classic.
Hard book to read, but yeah.
And it's not even about, though, between individuals. It's just about a man's passion for revenge and how it destroys him and consumes everyone around him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what revenge always does, folks. There's actually a really great quote. I can't remember of the early church father that wrote it, but he talks about this in length in a good 2 or 3 paragraphs about how wrath and vengeance and anger upon other people and jealousy, all those things are
they're mortal sins.
Well, not just that, but jealousy specifically, and covetousness, just the wanting of other people's things, are actually sins that only hurt you. Like, you feel those things toward other people, but they don't hurt those other people. They literally hurt you. They demoralize you.
I would agree 100%.
Yeah. Here we have, everything is interpretation, is a quote from Marcus Aurelius, cites from a Cynic philosopher. He notes that obviously this is not literally true, but that it is useful. It is a useful mental crutch if you take it for what it is worth. You can apply it to everyday life with amazing results. So
subjectivism, again, to be fair.
Yes.
But I think that people who could take this and apply to subjectivism and say all of reality is subjectivist is absurdist. And I don't think that, again, is what Aurelius was talking about. I don't think he was saying, as a philosopher who was well aware of the many advancements in science that his own people had made, that everything is subjective. But your feelings are in many ways subjective. It's very hard to, I mean, like, so I have a master's degree in communication science, and what we study is entirely subjective in many ways. I study, how many people say they feel this way, but we apply quantitative methodology to a subjective reality, which is how people feel about things. But how people feel is just how they feel, and it necessarily is not involved with physical reality.
Right. And I'll bring this up when we talk about conversations. We talked about this Tuesday a little bit because we were talking about, some tragic things, and people say things. You're not fully responsible for how things land unless you're intending them to land a certain way. You cannot tell what someone's trauma is that's going to trigger them, or their immaturity, I should say, because that's probably more often the case.
Yeah, sometimes it's real trauma.
Right.
Most
Well, I mean,
times
I'm someone
immaturity.
who's suffered real trauma in life, and I do know that does affect people, but you can get over it if you try to get over it. A lot of people like to
I
use
would
this.
say how it's defined in 2021 is mostly immaturity.
Right. Most people try to also, I believe, use their trauma as a crutch for victim points and adoration, right? Which I would say, like I mentioned on Tuesday, is just a function of narcissism. So there's that. But
It's something called a perpetual in-group victimhood orientation, or PIVO, that we find in certain groups of people, where they think that if their group is victimized in some way, they will always perceive themselves as being a victim, no matter what. And there are people, I think, in the United States in particular, the PIVO instrumentation has mostly been done in result to the Palestine-Israel conflict, wherein both Palestinians and Israelis believe both groups are perpetual in-group victims. But I think that we could probably apply that instrument, which it needs to be done because it's a relatively new instrument, needs to be conducted in the United States, to see that I think that there are people, particularly within this like SJW kind of field of people, who think that they are victims forever. And one of the things that PIVO means is that they always get to request things from other people. They won't do anything for themselves. They don't need to do anything for themselves. They don't need to create. They only need to take because they are victims and deserve it.
Right. And that is a growing mentality. Working in a correctional setting for 13 years, I can tell you that mentality gets born into people. We see generational, families, generations, literally grandfathers, fathers, children, sometimes with the women as well. But we see that in this mentality that they are owed things. I knew a guy before he got locked up, used to shoot pool with him, he was locked up for a while, had a drug problem or something, got clean, whatever. But I saw him again, and shoot pool out at the bar, and we lived nearby. He asked me for a ride home once. We were talking. He's like, "Don't you think that, when I get out of jail, that I should be given stuff by the government to set me up?" And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, come on, man. What are you talking about?
Right.
You're the one who had the problem. It's not society's issue to then say, hey, guess what? I'm a screw up. Now society has to pay for it. Society already paid for it while you were screwing up, partner. And then while you were in jail, mind you, as it costs $30,000 a year to house an inmate. So
at minimum, and that's I think people don't necessarily understand that kind of stuff. I don't know why it is that there's so much detachment from people and society, but that appears to be the case.
Well, let's keep going on with this. It says, with that in mind, remind yourself that how things affect you is determined by the mind's interpretation of them, not the external things themselves. Whatever happens, you can choose how to interpret it. So choose not to feel harmed, and you haven't been. Now, I want to make a point here. Just like Aydin was saying, this is subjectivism, but it's subjectivism for your own sake. It's a matter of saying, I can decide to interpret someone's actions as kind, or I can decide to interpret them as spiteful. Often people mistake people's actions. And so this isn't in any way talking about, let's say, postmodernism, which says that there is no objective reality at all. That's not what Marcus Aurelius is arguing here. He is just saying that there are certain things that people can do to you, and you can assume their position, where they're coming from. Perhaps you're wrong about it. You should give them, you should assume that they have the best intentions for you. And right after that, the next quote says, if it rains, you can choose to feel angry at the weather and pain by the sensation of the water on your clothes and body, or you can choose to feel grateful at being alive and being able to feel such sensations. how easy it is to repeal and wipe away every impression from its troublesome and unsustainable, and immediately to be in all tranquility. So work on gaining control of your mind to frame things positively. And this is no different than modern cognitive behavioral therapy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something that you mentioned earlier that I want to reiterate is that, and something I think can be applied to all of this, is that in modern scientific theory, we have three ways of understanding science. I've talked about this many times. We have three ways of understanding what we call quote unquote science. That's positivist, post-positivist, qualitative, four. Positivist, post-positivist, qualitative, and critical cultural. Qualitative, quantitative, critical cultural. So I actually gave 5 things, but whatever. To be clear about it, like positivism is an idea within science that would have been held within the Greek philosophy and the Roman philosophy, which is that if you see an animal, you observe its characteristics, and you would go like, okay, so I observe an animal and I see that it is pink and it stands on one legs and it has feathers and it has a beak. This is a flamingo, right? But then what happens when I come across a bird that looks identical to it and it has white feathers? Well, this is where post-positivism comes in, which introduces the idea of falsification. These are both objective and empirical views of reality. Then we have the more qualitative. So these are what we have in terms of science now is post-positivist, which means falsifiable. So any idea that we have can be falsified. Empirical, meaning observation-based. So falsifiable and observation-based. And quantitative, which is numerical. So we count things. The other sciences, quote unquote sciences within the social science, are qualitative, which is like, how do you feel? And then there's critical cultural, which is nothing can be defined. Everything changes based on the second, and all of it's bullshit, essentially. But that's how their quote unquote science works. None of this, we can't quantify any of it. But when we look back at this old philosophy, we're actually looking at not critical culture, excuse me. We're looking at quantitative empiricism, even back as long ago as this was, which would have been 2,000 years ago plus. These are still, even though it's talking about like feelings and emotions, these are still talking about things that can be measured and understood within a scientific basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're throwing a lot of stuff out there, though, that's very jargony for
trying
people
very
who are,
hard not to.
I know, Aydin. I know you're a social scientist. I'm just saying it's jargony for some people. I do have a question, Jim. I'm not sure what you're asking here. What's the guy that used this more recently? Or if you're talking to somebody else, the attitude paragraph, or if you're talking to us? I assumed you're talking to us, but I'm not sure what your question specifically was. In any case, can you rephrase that, Aydin, in a very simplistic statement, maybe?
Even going back as far as the Greeks and the Romans, we were finding people who were trying to look at the world through an objective and observational point of view. Like what is happening in these quotes is someone trying to say like, oh, hey, you feel offended by something? Try to think about it objectively. Try to think about it logically. That's what Stoicism is, by the way. It's a logical way of looking at the world.
Right.
What we find now is qualitative and critical cultural methodology, both of which say it doesn't matter so much what the reality is, what we can try to observe. It's more about how I feel all of the time outside of the other person. If we took very specific note, one of those earlier quotes talked very specifically about how you can't know how the other person feels, but you should expect to understand how they feel based on how you feel.
Right.
That's more quantitative methodology, whereas qualitative is just how I feel, and critical cultural, which is also what we call CRT, is completely just based on your own opinions and feelings as a scientist at all points in time, and it's not based on any kind of way that you could measure it.
Well, that's not science. That's
no, it's
opinion.
not.
It's opinion.
But that's why the Stoics knew it was up, right?
Right. And I don't believe that there are any Stoic sophists out there. And I would say that anyone who's into critical race theory or
I think the
postmodernism.
Stoics and the Sophists would not get along
Yes,
very
yeah.
well. Put it that
But
way.
all those people, I'm just going to say it. I don't care what other folks think about it, but all you folks that are in the CRT and all you folks that are into postmodernism, you're all a bunch of sophists. The end. So then the next quote says, ultimately, you are what you continually think. So take care which thoughts you allow to exist in your own head. And again, this is what
Yeah.
cognitive behavioral therapy is all about. And guys, I was married to someone with borderline personality disorder. That's the only way that they can really be treated. And yeah, that's a person.
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy does sometimes work with people who have.
Well, not with her, but she wouldn't be willing. But that's why we're not married anymore.
Yeah.
You know? But my point is that's a person who, no matter what you did, the world always revolved around them and their emotions, and there's a paranoid delusion within them that everyone's trying to abandon them or they're out to get them.
But their emotions are creating reality rather than allowing reality to create the emotions. This is the two oppositional ways that these work. Whereas Seneca, I think who's making these quotations, is it Seneca or Aurelius?
Oh, these are all Marcus Aurelius quotes. So
okay, so Aurelius is talking about reality creating emotions and creating a reaction to the environment, whereas someone who has that kind of disorder is allowing their emotions to create the environment in the opposite direction.
Yeah. So
in their perception.
What this is, guys, this book, as I showed you before, I'll bring it up again real quick. It's the summary of meditations. This is basically 20,000 words that are 20 some odd thousand that Marcus Aurelius had in his book Meditations, distilled down to about 4,000. And we're not going to go through all 4,000. We're just going to go through the beginning here and we're going to look at some other stuff.
Yeah, Aurelius and Seneca, absolutely check them out though.
Yeah. It says your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for human spirit is colored by such impressions. And this is true. This is why cultists will cut you off from your family and give you a new lexicon to speak in. And this is part of their brainwashing programming, right? So any thoughts on that, Aydin? Because I'm sure you know some about this.
Oh, absolutely. About the cultists?
Yeah. And how they use language or their own lexicons to basically indoctrinate folks.
There's so much. I don't know where I would start about that. But yes, I've been studying cults for a long time. But yeah, be very aware, because cults will, first of all, one thing to be very clear about, though, that goes against what I just kind of said, is that cults will make you, first and foremost, if you're getting involved with somebody and you're talking to somebody and they're saying, you're one of us, come be one of us. You're welcome here. It's fine. Like anything you want to do, you can do here, because you're always welcome. That's like a really big red flag. They might be your friend, but be very careful, because that is a huge cult tactic of making you feel as if you are accepted, you are loved. Now, you should feel that way among your friends and family, but that's how cults try to indoctrinate and encourage people to become a part of their cult, is by making people feel, who otherwise often do not feel like they have that kind of connection to other people, as if you can get it by being a part of our group, and then charging you money, usually.
Right. Real quick, guys, one thing I do want to say, because I kind of have a hard timeline today. I can't stay over, but so I will be done at 5. Wherever we go with this today, I'll probably just pick it up next Friday. So this might be a few-part series. As most of you who are around here normally know, I like to do things over a little series, because it's hard to just get in a ton of information in one, chunk. Even if I'm on here for 2, 3, 4 hours, it's still hard to get a lot of information across when we're having a conversation. Everything that I would like to cover, at least. So if we don't get through everything that I'm searching for today, I will just make this part 1, and we'll have part 2 next Friday. Just like we're going to have part 2 this Tuesday of, the COOF and basically our perverse risk assessment. So, and hey, Shelly, thanks for showing up. I haven't seen you around in a while, so appreciate you being here. Shelly's one of my diehard fans from back when I only had like 5 views at a time.
Heck yeah. Very cool, man.
Yeah. So, part 3 of this, your mind should sit superior to your body and its sensations. Now, this is a very, very useful mental tactic, because we often don't want to do things when we feel icky, right? Like yesterday, I didn't get a lot of sleep because my daughter kept waking up in the middle of the night. She was up for a long time. So I didn't work out yesterday, but it means I got to work out tomorrow instead of having an off day tomorrow, right? But this is one of those things we go, oh, I don't feel like doing it today. Oh, it's too hard. We make mountains out of molehills mentally, and we don't do things. So, of course,
Right.
the quote here is, you have a body and a mind. Your mind, your rational faculty, is the advantage you have over other animals. You follow nature's means to recognize this and makes use of what nature has given you. So here he's making the distinction. This is the ancient metaphysical distinction. You have to understand that, folks, too, that despite religious beliefs, that most people in the ancient world had very similar metaphysics that we often don't think about today. And this comes through, though, within our language, because our language is, despite its structure, its syntax being German, it's 50% Greek and Latin.
Greek, yeah. So one of the things that's important to understand about how the Romans and Greeks understood their gods is that they were forces of nature, more so than they were a hairy thunderer, if we want to, put it into the more Christian. that is a very way of being diminutive about it. But it's not so much that if you do something wrong, you'll be punished, although that was part of it, but mostly that the gods were forces of nature, and your body, therefore, was also a part of nature as well, I would say. And that's actually very true in terms of like how to take care of your body and your mind is take care of your body first. I'm not the best person to ask about that because I don't take care of my body very well. But
yeah, long before we've met, I definitely recall you on streams in the past mentioning you having certain troubled times, and I'm not much different, Aydin. I mean, I tend to do everything for everybody and everyone else around me, and I end up forgetting about myself. That's something I've had to learn in the last 10 years. Like, no, Bill, take care of yourself first, man. Well, it's not selfish. It's actually, you're going to be able to help other people better if you take care of yourself first. Right?
I just realized my mic was like way off place. But no, for me, yeah, like last year, in January, last January, I was in the hospital for like 3 months because I weighed like 70 pounds because I didn't take care of myself for a really long time. And you can't do that. Oh, I see a very important word on this page that I need to describe and explain. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to let you read this one since I've read the last few there.
Cool. Actually, I'm smoking a cigarette, so you go ahead and read the first one, and I'll read the next two.
Okay. All right. Deep down, you already know the things you should be doing, and yet you are not doing them. Yeah. This sounds like a Petersonism. That's because you don't have control over your mind. Whenever you determine to do something and you don't do it, it's because your body has given you some reason not to. Now, this is not technically true. This is not technically true. We know better today. We know more about willpower. There's some science behind that. But
yeah,
the principle is true, right? In that, whether it's technically true or not, that we tend to just we post hoc justify why we're not doing the things we're supposed to be doing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's a part of maintaining psychological consistency. We have to explain to ourselves why we're doing the things that we're doing. Otherwise, it's psychologically uncomfortable and we feel really shitty. We get depression and stuff like that. We always seek to avoid inconsistency, which is astonishing. You would think, considering the way the world works, that people would be totally fine with being inconsistent, but that's actually not the case. Inconsistency is one of the most uncomfortable things. Calling someone a hypocrite and actually being able to show it is something that can hurt people the most deeply. If they believe it, but I mean...
Yeah.
I don't believe that shit anymore.
Hypocrite's an interesting word because it was commonly used for actors, and I believe that the words used in the Bible in that manner. In fact, I have Matthew 6 pulled up, or is that Matthew 7? Am I mistaken? No, it's Matthew 6. So he talks about prayer. Here it says fasting. Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
With a sad countenance, meaning don't go out in the public fasting and putting on a
oh,
show.
it's so hard for I'm
Right. So
fasting.
when he's calling them a
Oh,
hypocrite, he's not saying that
yeah.
they're doing one thing and saying another. What he's saying is that they're literally actors, that they are acting, they're pretending. And so I use this word often for just about anyone who's on the left. And well, AOC is a perfect example of this. And her comes to mind because Tim Pool was talking about this yesterday. And her, the Capitol insurrectionists were going to kill me, and that didn't happen. It just
Even
didn't
though
happen.
she was a mile away, whatever.
Right. Well, I don't even know if she was a mile away, but apparently,
She was,
according to her account, it was long before they were
pretty far
even at the
away.
Capitol building.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hypocrite we use in common parlance to mean to do one thing or to say one thing and do another. But what it really means is that you are pretending and faking. You are virtue signaling, I think, is a better
Mhm.
way to think about it. And again, I talk in this way and about this because we've lost our understanding and our ties to our ancient past and our language. And I hate to be pedantic, folks, but sometimes I have to be with people. Like I once said, as Peterson often said, I said to a friend that life is suffering because life truly is suffering. You have to find a way out of the suffering. And they're like, I don't think it's suffering. That's such a cruel way to think of the world. Da, da, da. And I'm like, look, I go and I work out and I enjoy it, but you think I'm not suffering through my workout, like to get better, to get stronger, to get faster, to have more endurance. You think I'm not suffering to learn things? Suffering and denotes a amount of endurance and that's what it connotates originally. It connotes that. And we don't even think of it that anymore. We only think of it as in pain and it's something terrible and wrong because frankly, guys, we're a weak freaking society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. Any thoughts, Aydin?
No, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
About that AOC thing. She's so weak. She was so afraid by something that never would have affected her. But we're all supposed to sympathize with her weakness. That's interesting, I suppose. But it is weakness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And but she was literally hired as an actor. She had an audition as well as other people with the Justice Democrats to get a candidate in. So there you go.
Good for you. You got an actress who says some of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I don't know how in the world she got a degree in econ, but
she doesn't have a degree in econ, does she?
Oh yeah, she does.
I thought she was like a sociology major or something. Is she an econ
pretty
major?
sure if at least she has a minor in economics.
Let's see. Oh, she probably has a minor.
All right, I'm going to read a few more of these. You can look it up real quick.
Yeah, I am.
Do not allow pain, drowsiness, fever, loss of appetite to alter your behavior. When you are bothered by things like that, remind yourself, I'm giving in to pain. So he's being very strict here. You're seeing, even if your body aches and hurts, and I do know people like this. For me, I think you should rest when you're sick, guys.
Yeah.
But he's saying, even so, do your duties. And sometimes you have to. If you're a parent and you're really sick, you have to take care of your children.
I think that's what he's talking about, actually. Because, like, it's one thing to, if you're, like, earning profit or whatever, and to be like, I had to take a day off. You can't take a day off from being a parent. I mean, I would guess. Also, AOC has dual degrees in international relations and economics. So...
John says, what happened to looking at other people's mistakes through the lens of memory of your own mistakes?
Doesn't exist anymore, man.
Well, I'm wondering if he's talking about what in some of the things that we brought up. Sure.
Well, I think we should. We absolutely should. I mean, that's the way that I think people should behave in society. And it's what Aurelius is talking about here, is to behave the way that you believe understanding that people are human and they will make these mistakes.
Well, let's juxtapose this real quick with a Christian quote with the idea of this. Judge not that you not be judged, for whatever judgment you judge, you will be judged by, and with measure you use, it will be measured back to you. So what Christ is saying here is whatever level of judgment you give to an individual, you will be judged back by God. Now, does that mean don't judge? No, because the Bible says repeatedly, and right after this, it literally says to judge. Right below it, it says here in verse 6, Do not give what is holy to dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample under them, trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. What does that mean? That means don't say things to people you have judged not worthy to hear them, because they're sophists, and don't allow them to tear you down. They're not worthy to hear it.
Right.
And so you
right.
don't need to
That's
give
the
it to
most
them.
important line.
Right. And that means you have to judge. You have to make a judgment. So what the truth about this is do not judge someone's actions when you are making or taking the same action yourself. And people do this a lot. I see this so often. You know, the person that always complains about everyone else, always talking about how people are mean and nasty, are always the meanest and nastiest folks.
So often.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much within psychology to explain why that happens, particularly within the internet communication. There's so much data to explain that. But yeah, exactly. It's that you're allowed to judge people a little bit as long as you're not the one who's engaging in the same activity. If you see someone engaging in an activity that is reprehensible, you can judge them as long as you're not engaging in the same activity, I'd say. But unfortunately, too often is the case that people are engaging in the same freaking activities and they're judging people for doing the same crap that they're doing as well. In which case, you're just as guilty.
Well, Paul the Apostle.
I'm not saying I haven't done that as well. I'm just saying like other people like that's be careful. Be careful who you judge, lest you be judged yourself, right?
Absolutely. And look, right here, I had to bring this up here, but I prefer the New King James. Doesn't really matter though. In any case, so we'll go to that real quick. Right here we have Paul from Corinthians. Do you not know that you will judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If you have judgments concerning things pertaining to this life, do you appoint those who are least esteemed to judge, or sorry, by the church to judge? And he's talking, he's addressing the church in this particular instance. He's addressing the church of Corinth, and that they allowed a man to be having a relationship with his father's wife. And they allowed him to come to church. And he said, you guys are talking about, taking each other to court in the Roman world. He says, we don't do that as Christians. We take care of it here in house within our community. And he says, but you allow these people to come in. You need to judge better. Don't you know that at the end of time, when Christ returns, that's what all this goes into, that we are to judge the very angels, the fallen angels themselves, as well as the rest of humanity with Christ. Now, many of you might not know this because of modern Christianity, but this is the original teaching. So, again, it's not about making judgments per se. It's about judging with a spirit of truth and being fair about your own sins, reflecting upon yourself and looking at others. So if you, for instance, I say this all the time, I was a man whore for a very long period of my life. And I don't generally, even though I've repented of all that and I'm married now and whatever else, I don't judge people harshly for doing that, because I went through a period of my life about that. I don't think it's good for folks. I try to encourage folks not to do those things, but I understand it. And so I don't make harsh judgments against people with it, even though I've even repented of that sinful period of my life. So if that...
Well, all you can do is try to convince others not to commit the same sin.
There you go. There you go. But I'm not going there going, you're going to go to hell because you're a fornicator, right?
It won't. First of all, that won't work. I'm just telling you from a psychological perspective, that doesn't work. That does not work. Telling people they're a fornicator and they're going to hell, that won't work. That does not work psychologically. It will not. It's never going to work. You have to speak to people like they're people. That's the reality of this. I think that's actually something that Aurelius is probably really on to, as the whether or not they were Christians, obviously probably not, but we're on to as a basic psychological function.
Right.
And I guess by that, I'll continue reading. When you give in to these sensations, you make your mind the slave of the body, which leads to unhappiness, endless suffering, all from not allowing the mind to do its job enough. Gain control of your mind. It is only by gaining control that you can begin to act virtuously, and it's only by acting virtuously that true happiness, eudaimonia, will be reached. So do you know what eudaimonia is?
Not off the top of my head, but I do know that it's the Stoic. I know it's like
It's the word I was excited to see.
yeah, I know it's like the Stoic Zen place, basically, right? The
It
Buddhist
just means
kinda,
meaningfulness.
okay, okay.
So, in modern social science, oftentimes people will like test like how much pleasure does this give you, or how much eudaimonia does it give you? And the research on eudaimonia is so fascinating because the things that give people meaning are completely different. You can look at study after study after study. The things that give people meaning are pretty much unrelated to what that makes them feel happy. Happiness and meaningfulness are two disparate variables. We find them to consistently be disparate. And that to me is fascinating. What makes you happy is not what gives you meaning in life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting though, like, you know, because usually we want to say like, what makes people happy? Well, what makes people have meaning? They're totally different.
Right. And this is the again, what Peterson has been trying to put out there to people that so many people gravitated toward. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Peterson a Stoic.
No, but I think first of all, I know I've read all of Peterson's research that he's published. I know that he knows what eudaimonia is
Right.
because we've graduated from the same areas of study. It's interesting that he doesn't use the term eudaimonia more when I think often he's describing it. I don't know why he's not. He just doesn't. Might be because it's kind of a weird term, but he doesn't tend to use it.
Right. And I'm actually looking for a particular quote. I can't think of where it was at, but there's a couple quotes from Paul about the flesh and the spirit warring against each other. But
yeah.
There's one from Galatians 5:17 here. I'm looking at a lexicon because I wanted to, but this isn't the one I want. There's actually one where he actually uses the word spirit and soul, because that's another thing that we've missed in modern Christianity is we think those are the same things, and they're not.
Yeah.
And they're used sort of interchangeably, but they're not really the same thing. So I always try to give people the basic modern conception of spirit is closer to an attitude. And much like Aydin was speaking earlier about the gods being forces of nature, often they would think of spirits possessing you, that you would have a certain attitude, right? So we could think of the god of Bacchus being the god of drunkenness. And so people literally believe when they drank that Bacchus would take over their body.
Was coming in and instilling that feeling upon them.
Right. So, or if they didn't believe that because they understood, and they did understand that alcohol was intoxicating in general, what they would say, or what those who worship Bacchus or Dionysus specifically, what they would do is they would drink in order to get to that state, and they would say they were having a religious experience within that. So,
I mean, Diogenes was kind of doing that stuff too.
Yeah.
And he was also a Stoic to a degree, or he was a precursor to the Stoics. So Diogenes, who could be considered a precursor to the Stoics, who had some Stoic ideologies, was also some guy who just lived in an empty wine barrel and denied himself of all worldly pleasures, essentially. So
right. Peterson's works are hard to communicate effectively and not utilize pedantic language. Yeah, well, I mean, the problem with that is the reason why we all have to be pedantic is because no one actually is who's taken like seriously, or who has the big legacy media airwaves, or Joe Biden or any of our leadership, supposed leadership out there. They are not pedantic people. They just say whatever and they just take it back on a whim.
I would say they are engaging in pedantry in that they are just saying like things that make people feel nice without understanding what those words mean. That's pedantry.
Okay. Well,
in my opinion, they might say things that sound scientific. They may say things that sound philosophical, but they don't understand what any of those words mean. That's pedantry.
Yeah, I was talking definitely about right. Being specific with the language and having a specific understanding and getting it across. Right?
Oh no, they don't. Right. No, that's not happening whatsoever.
Yeah. So, All right. Aiden, you read all that, by the way? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I did.
I'm doing like 15 other things while trying to have this
No, sorry.
conversation.
Go ahead, man.
All right. Once you start following reason, the difference will be night and day. Within 10 days, you will appear a god, even to those whom today you see a beast or a baboon. If you return to the principles and worship of reason. And it says, with that in mind, stay mindful and take deliberate action. And this will be the last series of quotes from the Stoics that I'm going to read, and we'll look at some other stuff. So stay mindful and take deliberate action. Frequently, we go through life on autopilot. Most of the things we, excuse me, guys, most of the things we do, we don't even think about. Enough of this. No random action, none not based on underlying principles. And this goes back to what you were just saying about mindfulness, right?
It's not just mindfulness, but it's heuristic processing. So heuristic processing is how almost all of us interact with the world all the time. We see a stick in the grass and we go, that might be a snake, and we feel afraid. That's how heuristic processing works. Our brains are designed to work on autopilot because our brains take up so much energy. The human brain takes up so much more energy than almost any other species brain in the entire animal kingdom. And when you understand how much energy the human brain takes up in terms of how much we consume and what we use, it makes sense as to why we would want to make simplistic observations about everything, because we don't want to make our brains work extra hard because it takes up so much energy from an evolutionary standpoint.
Yeah, I can go back to about 2 years ago when I was in school full time and having to just work all day long on schoolwork, and how just exhausting that is, and mind numbing when your mental processes have to be fired up and you have to really think and delve into things. You'll actually burn a ton of calories like you're working out. So just like Aiden said, it does take up resources to really think through things and be mindful. And heuristics are the way we get around, of course. Hold on. Yeah, I wanted to pull that up. The purpose of communication is to transmit thoughts and ideas from one person to another. So it is imperative that you could choose the proper language for the target audience. Peterson does that well. Yeah, I think so generally. But there's always going to be someone, if you're going to be out in public, you're going to be criticized. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like what you do. 20% of food intake is used to power your brain on average. Yes, that is true.
Yes, that's an on average. And that's just be aware, 20%, it's 1/4. That it means that like you moving your body to get up out of bed and doing all the stuff that you would just going to go have a pee, all that stuff is other energy that's used by your body that you've internalized. Your brain is eating at least 20% of it, I would say, on average. Your brain's taking up the majority of it. Your brain needs a lot of energy to work.
And that 1/5, Aiden, you said 1/4, but
oh yeah, 1/5. Sorry. Well, yeah, it was well.
We want to make sure you know how to math.
He said He said 20% on a minimum, and it's probably closer to 1/4 to be honest. But like whatever.
Whatever. You said that after you said 20%. I'm like, well.
No, he's right. You're right. You're right. It's 1/5.
Yeah.
I just spent all day doing mathematical calculations. That's okay.
I'm not worried about it. I really don't like math. It's tedious. Although
I used to hate it. I hated it my whole life, and then I got into grad school, and I came to really love math. I have dyscalculia, so I'm bad at it. Hence the previous statement. But yeah, I love math.
Oh, you a fellow Sid?
I don't know what that means.
Dyslexic.
But, dyscalculia is like dyslexia, but with math. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know. I don't have that. I'm actually really good at math, but my problem is keeping the numbers while I'm writing them in order and whatever. So always, I'll screw it up in the process, but I understand the concept fine. But I am
you might have dyscalculia then, because that's my issue. Is that like I understand advanced math. Advanced math is actually quite fun and easy for me, but like simplistic, it's the same thing. Anyone you come across who has dyscalculia, they'll tell you the same thing. Like doing plus minus, simple division and multiplication, that fucks them up. they go into a lot of people who have dyscalculia are mathematicians. It's just that those simplistic calculations screw them up. But that's why they use computers and stuff to help them.
Yeah, that's not my problem at all. It's always, in fact, because I tend to simplify everything. So the last math course I had to take, I actually, we were doing set theory, and I didn't like the whole Venn diagram thing that they used, so I created my own way, and I got the right answer every time. So, and then my instructor was like, "Oh, this isn't how you're supposed to do it." I'm like, "I don't care. I got the right answer."
Oh, that's why I did terrible in math in high school. They were like, "Here's the way you're supposed to get the correct answer." I was like, "Well, I got the correct answer." I'm like, "No, it's not the way we're told. You just do it." Like, okay, that stuff's fucked. I for years thought I was literally retarded. For most, not trying to use the bad word, but I thought I actually was like disabled when it came to math. And then I got to grad school and I realized, oh wait, no, I'm really good at math. I can't do it in the way other people do it, and that's okay. I have to do it in a more very how would you call it, like graph based way. I need a spreadsheet, and then I'm really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it's more about I think it's the dyslexia, not the calculating part of it, because I calculate my brain fine. It's writing the numbers down and keeping them organized that way.
Yeah.
So,
That was I had an issue with that too. Dyscalculia and dyslexia are very strongly correlated issues. And I didn't have dyslexia, but I have dyscalculia, so they're related issues. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let's keep moving.
Yeah. Sorry.
I do have I always say a hard 5, but usually we go a couple minutes over. But I have to be done by 5 because I got food I have to go pick up. I got to work out to get done, and
I know you got stuff to do, my dude. Go ahead.
Yeah. But appreciate you being on here as always, Aydin. So the next quote says, yes, do not wander without a purpose. Act deliberately. Let's see here. I want to bigly this on my end on the StreamYard so I can read it this way. Observe your own mind critically, as if observing someone else's. In every case, ask yourself to what you are correctly employing your mind. What sort of soul are you displaying? Are you acting as a child, a tyrant, an animal? What's causing you to act that way? If you cannot control your actions and think and act systematically, you will have a troubled life. If you do not observe that's the dyslexia, right? If you do not observe the movements of your own mind, then you will be unhappy. Further, you can find peace from external events at any time by going within your own mind.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
All of this is, if you're having external doubts, go within yourself. You have to look within yourself always. Always look within yourself.
I would say, and I don't think it lies here alone, but Christ said the kingdom of heaven is within. So that's an important idea. That it's the same. It's not finding God.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily finding God inside of yourself. It's understanding that you can commune with God by disciplining yourself. That you have to look inward and not toward the external, again, of what the world is.
You can't just expect Christ to come in and fix your problems for you, right? You have to be able to do it for yourself. Now, Christ or God or whatever you perceive him to be, Harry Thunder or Cosmic Muffin, you have to be able to invite the divine into your life to help you. You can't expect the divine to do it for you, correct?
Well, that I would say is an aspect, but there's another quote I like a lot. It's actually I think I have it up here. Let me see if I have it. Matthew 15, 8 is 18. I'm trying to remember. This is who's the greatest. Maybe it's Matthew 20. No, it's parable. Let's see. I know I have it here. What is this? No, it is 15. Okay, I was right. I was right in the first place. I just clicked on the wrong tab. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees basically came to Christ and said, why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders, for they do not wash their hands when they eat bread? And Jesus answered them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of your God because of your tradition? For God commanded, saying, honor your father and mother. Who curses their father and mother, let him be put to death. Now, what he was doing is he was, you have to understand this isn't in the text.
Pointing out their hypocrisy. Yeah.
Right. He was saying
he
scribes,
wasn't saying they should be put to death. He was saying this is your tradition.
Right. Well, for the historical aspect of this is the scribes and the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they would do things to basically not have to honor their parents. And what that meant in Judaism was to give them money in their elder age. So they made up their own rules so they didn't have to take care of their parents. And Christ called them out on that. And he continues. So again, guys, goes back to that aspect of judging others, right? And you might say, well, Jesus was God, if you believe that, and therefore he's allowed to judge. Well, no, we're supposed to be. The reason why we're called Christians is because that was a derogatory term that literally meant little Christs, and the Christians adopted it. They just said, yeah, we are. We're trying. That's what we're trying to be. We're trying to emulate Christ. So with that, he says, he who curses father and mother, let him be put to death. But you say, whoever says to his father and mother, whatever profit you might have or receive from me as a gift to God, then he not need to honor his father and mother. Thus you made the commandment of God of no effect, you hypocrites. And he goes on, and where is it at? Oh, maybe it isn't in this portion. Maybe I found it wrong. But he goes on to say, it isn't what is that goes into the body, but what comes out of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Comes out that defiles a man. I'll find it here in a second.
No, but this was such an important teaching of Christ in particular. It's that what comes out of you, that's what's important. It's what you do. It's your behavior. It's not what goes into you. Anyone can follow the teachings of Christ. No matter what has gone into them, it's changing Saul to Paul, right?
Right.
It's.
Go ahead.
I'm saying it's the changing of Saul to Paul. It's that you can have been a sinner your whole life. It doesn't matter. At any point in time, you can change. Your previous actions are in no way prohibitive of your future actions. And I think that's a really fantastic and great thing about Christianity. And I don't really like the idea of some Christians who say like, oh, well, no, you didn't follow it from the time you were born. So you're a sinner and you're a bad person. No. That's not what Christ was talking about. He was specifically talking about, it was on the road to Damascus, wasn't it? Saul to Paul. You can become a follower of Christ at any point in time. You can choose at any point to accept Jesus into your life.
Yes. Hold on. I did find it here. I was right. I must have just not saw it there. But so it is Matthew 15. It says in chapter 11. So I'll just go there real quick for you guys. Live show, live show. So I missed it. It was right there. Okay. He said, he called to the multitudes to himself. He said to them, hear and understand, not what goes into your mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth defiles a man. And there's another point where I believe he says this in one of the other synoptic gospels where he gets more specific about all of the different sins that people can commit. And basically he's talking about actions. So it's a similar kind of going back to what we were talking about. You were talking about the idea that you have to seek Christ for yourself. I think it's beyond that. It's about self-discipline. Christ says, look within, because you and what you do as an individual, it's not all the stuff going around you. Mm-hmm. It's not you going to church or even being in the church group.
Oh, absolutely. It's you.
Right.
100%. You have to do it as an individual. It is not you as a group, as you going, like, that's the thing. The idea that people are like, oh, I go to church every week. But yeah, but okay, whatever. That's cool. But what have you done as an individual? It should be your individual faith. It's your individual belief and your individual actions that matter in the eyes of God, I would believe.
Right. And I also, from the Sermon on the Mount, need to remind everyone, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. uh, my, or sorry, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, we have not prophesied. Have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And he will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Those who practice lawlessness, the word antinomian there in the Greek. So this is an important thing on the Christian aspect of things. And I think that's why it is the kingdom of heaven is within. That's very specific to the individual. The modern church would say, and I know that the modern church, such as the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, has its roots from the beginning of Christianity, but the modern church would say, no, the church provides salvation, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I reject that wholeheartedly.
Well, that's
and
a very Catholic belief.
Right. I'm not a sola scriptura person either. I don't think that you can operate that way, but I absolutely reject that idea.
So like the Catholic Church would say that you as an individual kind of aren't capable of understanding the scripture without a priest to lead you. And that is a almost entirely Catholic in terms of the Christian.
The priesthood of the saints, though, which is scriptural, which means all who believe, all who are in the faith, all who have been baptized are priests. They can talk to God directly.
Yeah.
And I also have the question. This is a thing I always have to bring up with people that object to this. Well, why was Melchizedek back in Genesis in the middle of the desert all by himself as a priest king that Christ is later seen as a type of? Melchizedek was a foreshadowing of Christ. And
well, there's several.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Oh, well, the whole
there's multiple. Yeah.
But
Isaiah, probably most importantly, I would say Isaiah.
Well, there are many, numerous, but we're going off too far on a tangent. Let's keep with this. There's only a few more quotes I have here.
All right.
I'm going to cover, but either way, guys, my whole point here with all this, with this little quotation is think about the internal within and not how the external world affects you.
Yes.
Right? The external world will affect you, but most of those things are outside of your control.
You got to try so much. Like a lot of times people perceive the Stoics as being non-emotive, as they have no emotions. But here Aurelius is explaining, no, you're going to have emotions. They exist. They're part of your existence and your reality as being a human, but try to keep some of it inside, maybe.
I like this, Jim. I think I got two Jims in my, I got Jim and John. Okay. And then Josh. You guys are I know Josh though. So, yeah, and I missed church. The governor closed them illegally for a time.
Well, that's fucked.
Yeah, it's true though. It is true.
I know. It's really fucked up.
All right, here's another one.
Should I do these?
If you want.
Sure. Humanity is born for cooperation, and we are constituted for one another. Do not allow yourself to become angry with those around you, fall into hatred, or give up on trying to make a positive difference in society. If you conceive of all rational beings as constituted for one cooperation, then helping other people becomes a joy and not just the right thing to do. I think it sounds a little bit communistic, but I guarantee it sounds communistic to some people who aren't paying attention. I put it that way.
Well, I always say though that we have this false dichotomy between the individual and society or the collective, and not that. So one thing that the hardcore individualists get correct is that all collectives are made of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work in the reverse, right? Like,
yeah, right.
There are people that will go off and live as hermits. But ideally, the best functioning society is individuals working as individuals in a collective.
Yes, by choice.
Right. So the collective has to exist. We are social creatures. We need the collective, but
absolutely,
it is individual actors within the collective, and that's the problem with collectivism: is it doesn't want individual actors.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, this is correct. Like, in terms of don't allow yourself to be angry about those around you. You're going to get angry, but if you fall into hatred, I do believe that if you fall into hatred, you're fucked. If you truly start hating people, you cannot make a positive difference upon society. Hatred is totally toxic.
Yeah, and these are some important things to go over too, because this is what's happening with a lot of men as well, as they're isolating themselves from the world. They're not getting out there, and a lot of the stuff about
Oh,
inner
yeah.
workings and yourself. So all this is really important. I think I think this is a good secular framework in general. I would not allow this to lead my life in whole, because again, this is part of that juxtaposition that I want to get into. We probably won't fully get there today, about how Stoics see the world and fatalism, and how it's really about individual self-control, where
Mhm.
it's Christianity actually gives you an out toward God and the Holy Spirit and a lot of other stuff. So even though it calls
Right.
for a lot of individual self-control, it actually suggests that there are a lot of outward forces that you should be looking toward. It's just not here in the worldly sense,
Right. I
right?
think you're actually completely correct about that. Is that like a lot of what we see in like MGTOW and stuff, or a lot of these same kind of perspectives and a lot of these same kind of virtues that are being espoused here, but they're being espoused in a secular way, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a deistic, and I could say, you could say it how whatever deity you want it to be, but Christ in particular is a good way of focusing your energy into a way that is pro-social, that helps society overall. And if you understand the teachings of Christ, then that can help you to understand how to be better for society through your own personal actions, if that makes sense.
Right. And well, here, I mean, that's actually a very good point, Aiden, because within Stoicism, it says be good to people, but there is
There's no real
no,
point, but
right there, and there's no endeavor to be altruistic, which was something that was foreign to the Roman
mhm,
mind that Christianity brought
yes.
in.
So,
So,
there's I recently I was conducting some research recently that I'll put out soon. I was astonished because I was on altruism, and the reality is that altruism is an incredibly variable, for me to say it that way. Is that like we would accept people? I would expect people to be all kind of generally altruistic, but no, people are it's an extremely volatile variable. People aren't generally altruistic. It's something that you don't find normalistically within people. I didn't expect that, but altruism is apparently a rare thing.
yeah.
I
Well,
was
I think,
shocked by that.
I mean, I'm not. Why do you think everyone wants to outsource their duties to be altruistic to the government?
Well, I'll tell you why I was particularly mad, because I did a study when I was in undergraduate, and I found that my personal university was more altruistic than another university. And then when I went and did this research more recently, it found that the university that we did that research against was more altruistic than other universities. So now I'm feeling a little bit pissed. It's like, okay, my Catholic university was super altruistic, more so than a public university, and that public university was more altruistic than all other universities that were assessed. So now I'm confused by one of the studies I've worked on. I don't know what it means anymore. That's just why I'm pissed. That's all it is. I just don't know what that study means anymore.
Real quick, over on not D Live, sorry, over on Entropy, we have Architect of Fate says, WTF, this made sure I was subscribed. I just made sure I was subscribed again yesterday and no notification. F YouTube, here's some money. Keep doing these types of streams. The free will of man is God's will. There you
Well,
go.
anytime you want to invite me on to talk shit, I'll do it.
Well, Aiden, if you want to keep coming on, I love the conversation. It's a lot easier than running a
Always
one-man
enjoyed
show.
talking to you, man.
Yeah, so Tuesdays and Fridays at 3 p.m. if you're available. I mean,
Yeah, just let me know when you have an open space, I suppose.
I mean, I generally do. I haven't planned anything out. In fact, the other show is normally the guest show, but I just started doing this because I could, and I wanted to talk to Christian, but I didn't know if he'd have time in the evening for the Ins Justify the Memes, and and I have to work with my co-host on that.
I
'cause
thought you
his
said Chris
scheduling-
Chan for a minute. If you don't know what's going on, that shit's
With what?
Chris Chan.
Chris
Don't worry about
Chan?
it. Yeah,
meant
don't
Chris-
worry about it.
He's talking about Christian Watson. So okay, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
All right, all right. I don't know. I don't get involved in drama, so if there is any, I
It's
don't know
not drama. It's just a very autistic man has said he's fucking his own mother, and everyone on the internet can't talk about anything but that right now. I literally can't even post on Twitter, and everyone's just like, "Hey, Aydin, talk about how this guy's fucking his own mom," and it's like, yeah, well, now I've talked about it. Okay.
I
It's
literally
weird.
just saw a thing the other day where I put on the It's Just for the Memes yesterday because we do our little meme cast news where this woman divorced her husband and married her stepson.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't know who Chris Chan is?
I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But you should actually worry about it because he's like the most famous person on the internet. But don't worry about it.
I mean, maybe I do. I just don't care.
Yeah, don't care about it. It's just
maybe if I saw it, I'd be like,
the
oh yeah, I remember
problem
that
is
guy from 6 years ago. And
yeah, the problem is that like I've been trying to tweet about serious shit for like the last day, and everyone's just like, Aydin, talk about Chris Chan, talk about Chris Chan, talk about Chris Chan. Like, I'm not gonna. All right, here I talked about Chris Chan. It's weird that he talked about fucking his own mom. That's really gross and weird. There you go, guys.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing. Some of you guys out there know who I am on Twitter. Aydin does. You know my full name. I'm not. I don't try and throw that out there just because I'm not trying to accelerate doxing.
Yeah, don't want to do
whatever.
that shit, my dude.
But I, at the same time, I really just don't care.
No, just everyone wants to know. It's like it's a deep. Don't worry about it.
But my point is,
deep internet
I
shit.
don't really tweet. I don't really do the Twitter thing.
Twitter is garbage. To be fair.
I know. I know, and I know I could probably help grow the channel more that way. I don't care. I don't care. I'm just gonna.
Don't get into it. Don't get into it, my dude. Don't get into it. Be happy that you don't know anything of what I'm talking about.
Yes. It's a time suck. I used to know these things. I used to be on forums.
No, it's truly a gift.
It's a time suck. I can't do it. My life has too many other things that I find important that I must.
We're talking about enough Greek stuff. We don't need to get into Oedipus here.
There we go. Yes. No Oedipus Rex. All right. So here we have you're not really embracing other people. Helping them isn't yet its own reward. You're still seeing it's only as the right thing to do. You don't yet realize who you're really helping. So what this is saying,
goodness.
From what I gather from this, is it's helping yourself by helping other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learn to feel affectionate for other people, even when they make mistakes, as we read earlier. You can do so by recognizing they're human too, and we all make mistakes, of course, and that before long they will die just like you, and that they were all excuse me, guys, just like you, and that we're all in this together. What's more, regardless of what they've done, they haven't really hurt you.
Can I make a quick aside?
Yeah.
So I've done some research on the COVID thing. The people who are mostly promoting the vaccines, according to the scientific data, are people who are narcissistic Machiavellians who care a whole bunch about physical possessions. Those are the people who are doing it. I have a hardcore fucking scientific study on it. And that's what that reminded me of. They don't care about you. They are doing this in order to get something for themselves. If you ever get confused, you think someone's doing something to be nice. Now, oftentimes, maybe they are. Maybe they're a really good person. But be skeptical, because oftentimes they're doing it for their own edification and their own benefit.
I'm sitting here reading the chat.
I'll give you the citation on that, by the way, because people won't believe me. The citation on that is where we go. I have to go pull it up.
Aydin, before you go any further, speaking of racism, says Bill and Aydin should be the new Matt and Blonde.
It's gonna be Jin and Ryu 2021 is a citation. I can post it in the citation right here. It'll be Jin and Ryu. The study is called The Greedy Eye That Gives, the Paradox of Egocentrism and Altruism, Terror Management, and System Justification Perspectives in the Interrelationship between Mortality, Salience, and Charitable Donations amid the COVID-19 pandemic. I will post the study's title.
Put it through the live chat, or sorry, the private chat, and I'll put up the screen share.
Yeah. This is the citation. Boop. That's the title.
Okay.
Just get ready that people, they hate you, and they hate the fact that you're happy. That's what that study found. I'm not joking.
So, yes, I'm going to accept all your cookies. The greedy eye that gives, the paradox of egocentrism and altruism, terror management, and system justification perspectives on the interrelationship between mortality,
salience,
and charitable donations amid the COOF.
So just system justification.
Title.
Yeah, system justification is the you get what you fucking deserve effect, which is that if something bad happens to somebody, you believe that something within reality, within the system, made it so that they deserved that bad outcome. So if somebody dies, it's because they deserved it, right? So the people in this study believe that if people died because of COVID, it's because they did something bad. I'm not joking. It's like a huge amount of people who believe that stuff. This is such a horrifying study, and was published last month. You're welcome, guys. Here's a brand new study for you.
Abstract. Why do people give and help or help others in face of their own mortality salience?
Mortality salience means thinking about death.
Yes.
Don't worry about like those like
karma?
Sigma values and stuff. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well,
I'll explain what those Sigma values and things mean.
We can get back to this another time.
Yeah, sorry. I just thought I'd explain that to be like, it's the same thing where people are like, they hate other people for just not agreeing with their own beliefs.
Yeah,
it's happening right now.
Right. I think that is, when we talk about tribalism on any fundamental level, that is just within our nature, and that's part of it. Because when you grow up in a household that is, you're being inundated with certain beliefs and thoughts. Hopefully, if you have good parents, you should be.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're right or wrong is another issue. But hopefully, your parents are trying to mold you into themselves to some degree,
mm-hmm.
not trying to make you them, but trying to impart their beliefs onto you.
Yeah.
And so within that, that's our basic root of tribalism. And if we look at a primitive society, those beliefs are going to spread out so everyone can have good social cohesion, right? And the minute that someone outside of that comes in, then that social cohesion breaks down. So it is a biological imperative for people to maintain a narrative and social cohesion. It's just simple.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do that, and we're not mature about it, as I was saying earlier, or if we can't do that, people have different ideas and we're not mature about it, then we just get mad and we try to kill each other off. And all that does is just breed destruction. It doesn't help anyone out. Cooperation helps.
Yes, exactly.
My thing is you can believe what you want, and I might think you're crazy. We can still trade. Just stay over there. Just don't come in and implement your crap onto me. Just like I'm perfectly fine.
That's a very libertarian belief, my
dude.
Of
course, I'm a very libertarian.
Me too.
Right. Just like I believe if you want to go have a commune, go buy some land and go have your little commune, and you can have it in my society. But in your ideal society where everyone's in the commune, I can't have my free markets.
Right. So exactly.
That's a problem.
Yes. Communism prohibits free expression, and it prohibits free markets, and it prohibits free people expressing themselves in any way that they feel. That's the whole issue with socialist and communist societies, particularly communist societies.
That's the fundamental problem with tribalism and collectivism.
Mm-hmm.
And as I always say, Marx was a freaking moron because he got everything backwards. Society didn't move towards communism. It moved away from it because we started in poverty, which was communistic. That's where we started.
Well, it was.
We moved toward free markets. That is the anthropologically correct position.
Yes,
And
we will. If the market is actually free, we will move towards free markets. But when the
right.
market is not actually free, then no. And that's the problem, is that the market is not actually free.
Right. But here's the other thing is that the only thing that I think that Marx got right about that is the totalitarian state, because totalitarian states don't exist in tribal societies. Basically, you're just trying to survive, and these are just your beliefs or whatever. Totalitarian states come along when people civilize. We create civilization and we become agrarian.
Right. And some group of people decide that they want to be the monarchs.
Yes,
and they become the kings. They become the same people who are involved, who are the kings, become the communist kings, and they still get to own all of your. This is the thing, commies. Please understand this. If you want to vote. First of all, that's very funny. You want to vote for communism to become the main thing to exist in the United States. First of all, your vote will cease to exist very quickly after you voted that into power. Secondly, you won't have a vote again, and they will be the same people that you supposedly despise. They are the rich, they are the wealthy, they are the oligarchs, and they will control you. You are voting them into power. I hope that you like that, because that's what you're voting for. First of all, I don't like anybody in power. Just become a libertarian like the rest of us who have understood this. But or I don't know, keep going ahead and voting to have all your rights taken away and see what happens. Sure, it'll turn out great.
Voluntary servitude is easier. It's easier
that's true. They want it.
This is exactly kind of the some of the points on Stoicism here that Marcus Aurelius is addressing. It's hard to do these things, but you'll be a better person for doing it.
Yes, actually, that's exactly what he's talking about. And I've actually had this thought before, which is that to have to admit how difficult it is to become an individual is difficult. And the reality is there's probably like 50% of people, I would say it's maybe that many percentage of people who would rather just be ruled upon. It's not all of them. It's probably about half of people who would rather just be ruled.
Oh, Jim. Marx was such a great guy. All of his children killed themselves. I don't know if his son killed himself, his illegitimate son, but he did. He treated him like he wasn't a son his whole life. Treated him like a slave.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about his actual children, but I do know about that.
His daughters, he had a bunch of daughters the ones that survived, they all did kill themselves. I think there were 3 of them that survived childhood.
Yeah, but I think that might have been in part because the regime started to fall apart. I'm not sure exactly about what the reason for that was. I would say, though, is that if you've just I don't know. You can do this stuff. You can. It happens within digital economies all the time. Within like video games and stuff. Exactly what's being described here happens within digital video game economies all the time. The strong survive, the weak fail. I'm not saying that's fun. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's moral, but it is what happens. And ultimately, people will help the less fortunate. It has happened every time throughout society. It's not necessarily like optimal, but it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's we got about 10 minutes. Let's
wrap this up.
Let's read the rest of these. We'll wrap it up. Well, I'll tell you what, Aydin, if you're willing to come on, if you're free, if you're available next Friday, we'll come back to this and we'll cover some more
sure thing. Yeah, sure thing. We can go back and
this is generally, I mean, when I'm streaming 5 days a week, it's easier to do this kind of stuff. But generally what I do is I make little series of videos because it takes time to get through these subjects. I feel.
No, I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sure I extended it beyond its normal actual.
It's just good conversation. We got people watching, So.
Well, yeah, I'm down anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah, and as a reminder, guys, if you weren't aware, there is an entropy stream. It is linked in the description. Yiz had some issues earlier. There are 2 entropy links in the description, folks. There's one for my second channel, the Ends Justify the Memes, and there's one for this channel. So if you want to donate for this channel, go there. If you go to the Ends Justify the Memes, you will be giving money to Tank as well, which don't give Tank money. Like, why would anyone want to give that guy money?
How about you help them both out?
Yeah. We split that 50-50. So if you want to make a donation to me directly, that's you got to do it to this channel. Um, so
Well, guys, do what you feel like you want to do.
I don't care. I know. Well, I'll put it this way, Aiden. Someone gave me a big donation, like almost $100,
Mhm.
and gave it to the wrong stream, and then messaged me and was like, "Oh
Aw.
man, I forgot to do this." And it's like, well, I could tell him, but I'll probably just split it with him because that's the deal I have with
Well,
him.
whatever, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it is what it is, I suppose.
I haven't even cashed out yet. I should be getting cashed out this month.
Don't tell him. Don't tell him how big the. Don't tell him how
Yeah,
big
right.
the super chat was. Tell him, please. Tell him.
He has
I'm
access to the
memeing.
email and everything that I do for that channel. So
I know.
But anyways, let's read the last few of these real quick and get
Let's get through it.
out of here. So you want to read them so I don't get all dyslexic?
Sure. Learn to feel affection for other people even when they make mistakes. You can do so by recognizing they're human too, and we all make mistakes, and that before long they will die just like you and I, and that we're all in this together. What's more, regardless of what they've done, they haven't really hurt you. You can do it if you simply recognize that they're human too, that they act out of ignorance against their will, and that you'll both be dead before long. And above all, that they haven't really hurt you. They haven't diminished your ability to choose. Another mental crutch he offers is to contemplate the positive qualities of those around you. We all have different abilities and talents, and keeping theirs in mind will make you think better of them.
This is when you need encouragement. Think of the qualities the people around you have, the energy of one, the modesty of another, the generosity of a third. Keep the thought of them ready at hand. So have examples, and we'll come back to this at this. Your opinion of yourself matters more than the opinion of strangers.
Please get this. Please, everybody watching. It doesn't. No, but what everyone else thinks doesn't fucking matter. Just saying, as someone who's dealt through it, it doesn't matter. It really does not. Unless it's your friend or your family member, your husband, your wife, your mother, your father. It does not matter what other people think of you. And even then, it doesn't matter that much. It should only matter if there's something very serious going on that needs to be challenged.
I would say, so in my youth, I make friends easy, but I don't always make good friends, right? People that are good for me. And so in my youth, I would keep people around. As you get older, I feel most people go through this. You learn that, some people you can cut out of your life, you don't have to be loyal to them, and they're just toxic. You don't want them around. And once you realize that and you start to mature, I think that you get people around you who you do respect the opinion of. And sometimes you'll have a friend tell you something that might not be truthful of you, but perhaps it is, and you should listen.
Oh, yeah.
But you should just take that into account and go, well, they don't know me fully, but that is a little bit of a truth about me. Like, you should at least know something like that. And again, we go back through the quotes. If I pulled it back up here, that was in the beginning, that those people that make mistakes recall that you might make a mistake, or that you have made the mistake in the past, or
well, an interesting thing about the internet is that if you make a mistake, no one will ever forget it.
Right. Well, another thing is the attribution of intentions, right? And that realize that you're attributing certain intentions to them that may not be there. And that's the biggest one, because we all, like, I do it. We all do it. We all seem to think that we're psychic and know what other people are thinking. And
well, it's called solipsism.
Right.
Yeah.
Mind you, I am rather intuitive with people. But I definitely don't know what people are thinking. Often, if I get to know them, I can seem to know what they're thinking. But you don't know it's a stranger on the internet.
Do you engage in solipsistic interojection?
Solipsistic interojection.
It's when solipsistic interojection is having a conversation within your own head with someone else who exists, where you imagine how the conversation will go.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Everybody does, right? That's what I mean. Everybody engages in solipsistic. That's what I mean. Everybody is a solipsist. That's why I bring up solipsistic interojection, because everybody is a solipsist to some degree. Every single person, for the most part, has engaged in solipsistic interojection, where you plan out a conversation you're going to have in your own head. So that's why I disagree with this idea that like there's such a thing as a solipsist, because there are people who are more solipsistic than others, but everybody is a solipsist. We all engage in things like solipsistic interojection. Pretty much everyone has imagined having a conversation with someone else, right?
I would hope. I do know I have watched your.
Well, there was that weird study that showed
I know
that like some people
I've
don't
watched your
have.
video about the internal monologue thing. And
I
how,
didn't. By the way, that video was like half a joke because the study was terrible,
I know.
and even though I covered that study, I thought people kind of understood that I was joking about half of that study because it was a terrible study.
Well, you corrected it. You corrected it like you usually do, though. You said this.
Yeah, I said it was terrible. I said it was terrible.
Well, beyond that, you said this isn't about people not having any thoughts. It's about people not having a thought in a moment.
Right, exactly. And
right.
That was the whole issue with that study, is that like, this idea that like people don't have internal monologues was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever fucking read. I'm sorry. I've read 100,000 fucking papers, and that was one of the stupidest things I've ever fucking read. You're
people
so
still
wrong.
believe that paper, though. This is the problem, not with layman's reading science, but people following scientism and science journals and those things, because they're not actually reading the papers. They're just reading the abstract.
Yeah, read the abstract,
or the conclusion or something, just or what a journalist said this study said, which isn't always.
Which is the worst, because journalists, by the way, journalists for the most part don't have access to these studies, so they just read the abstract and then they determine what they think the study said based on the abstract. So it's a compounding effect, right? Where the abstract isn't very accurate at depicting what the journal actually, or what the study actually found, and then the journalist has no capacity to understand science, so they just report on bullshit because they can't fucking understand it. And then it compounds and compounds and compounds until the average person thinks that there's a portion of the population that has no fucking internal monologue, which is not what the goddamn study found.
Right. Well, I mean, I brought this up Tuesday, but this is the same thing when journalists could sit there and go, they can make the claim that the Danish mask study does not prove that masks are ineffective. And I'm like, we had a sample of 5,000 people. What are you talking about? Like,
well, they don't know what the fuck. In that case, they're intentionally avoiding other information.
Right. I'm just saying, like, what are you talking about? Like, there is almost no difference. There's a 0.2 difference in the contagion, which, by the way, was really small in the first place. It was like 2% of the people in the study contracted.
Except N95 masks are effective, but outside of that, the cloth-based masks have almost no effectiveness at preventing spread of viral contagions. We have known this. I have been talking about this for the last year and a half. I apparently, and it's not just me. Like, I'm not a fucking like medical scientist, but I can read their fucking studies as well as anyone else can. So it's a little bit absurdist that this information is apparently verboten. My next video is on this, on vaccines. I'm sure it will get absolutely hidden, but whatever.
Auntie, I'm not going to read your super chat, but thank you.
But was it mean to me? You can read it.
No. It's
I was just saying, if it's mean to me, I can take it.
That's not advisable to say.
Is it against the medical?
No. It's not against. Yeah, it's a derogatory
word. A bad word.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but appreciate the $3, buddy. Him and I just talked the other day over in Sniper's stream, but that stream got used because Yiz wanted to Yiz post. So.
Yiz can Yiz post as much as she likes.
Well, we know. We also dismantled, though. Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I think we dismantled some of the thoughts about, insurrections or whatever that were brought up on that stream. Because it's not possible.
Insurrection.
Yeah. But whatever. All right, guys. Well, it is 5:00. I'm going to get out of here because I have to go pick up food from the grocery store I delivered to save myself.
Got shit to do, man.
Not delivered. I'm having a weird speech today. I think I need to eat. So
that's exactly it. You got to go pick up your food.
I know. I did eat not too long before I came on stream, but I think I'm just ready again. But yeah, I have food to pick up, so I don't have to go into the grocery store. I did that to save some time for the evening and, other things. like daughter. Got to take care of
Look,
the baby.
yeah, you got a little baby to take care of, my dude.
Yeah, the wife does pretty good. She's actually been back to work part-time this week, and
Oh wow.
it's been all right. So
Well, that's good.
yeah.
You have to take care of it entirely yourself then. That's
She
good.
sleeps so much during the day though. Like she's had this fussy period in the evening from about 9 until about midnight, which isn't that bad, but then she'll sleep like all night. I mean, she'll wake up to feed, but more or less she sleeps through the night. But here the last few days she's been getting up early. Like yesterday she was up at 4 a.m. and she was up till 6.
You're just gonna get the circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Into it, you know.
So before she would get up at 4 a.m. and feed and go right back to sleep. Now she's no. and interestingly, so at the beginning of the show, we'll leave with this. You said something about laughing. I don't remember what you said specifically, but I thought about this, and I want to posit the question: do you know why we laugh? And I don't mean from a scientific perspective.
Oh, wait, I do know from a scientific perspective.
Okay, from a philosophical perspective, do you know why we laugh?
No, I do know from a very scientific perspective.
Well, you can lay that on me real quick.
Okay, so first of all, it indicates to other people around us that something amusing has happened, but also it reduces anxiety among the group.
Okay, so that's good. That's a good little scientific note there. So I would say that we laugh for two reasons. We laugh because of pure joy, and we laugh because of, and babies laugh, right? They laugh early on.
Yes.
We laugh because of joy, and that's why babies laugh. Or we laugh because the situation is so horrible that there is nothing else we can do about it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. If you think the two things, it's one of the few things that we do that is on opposite ends of the emotional spectrum that has the same behavioral outcome. We laugh at things that are uncomfortable and unnerving because they're so horrid we can't face them, or we laugh because we're experiencing joy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I brought that up too because babies, they smile when they pass gas reflexively until they're about 6 or 8 weeks old.
No, they know what's going on. They're
well,
like they're smiling at you.
Because we all smile to this day when we pass gas. So, guys, if you got nothing out of this from Stoicism or Christianity, at least you learned that.
Well, I will say, at least in terms of my partner, every time he just looks at me and smiles, I know what's going on.
Yes, long before they have a social smile, which starts to develop at 6 to 8 weeks. Long before they have a social smile, they smile when they are passing gas, and that is called a reflexive smile in the data. It's just ingrained into our brain.
I need to look up fart information apparently now. I'm like a fart study. I gotta go find a fart study. My partner would be upset by it because he farts all the time and smiles at me when he does it. And then puts me under the covers. It's the worst.
Yeah. All right. Checking the chat last time for any parting shots. With that, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I will be back Tuesday at 3 p.m.
Take care, man.
Sounds like Aydin will be with me again. We're going to be talking about the Koof some more. And then we'll continue this on Fridays. So, go back and forth between the two things.
Yep, I got some new studies for you, my dude.
Sweet. So with that, guys, every 3 p.m. Sorry, I was streaming every day at 3 p.m. Now on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Tuesdays and Fridays. You can catch me here on All Minus One. Please like, share, subscribe. The thing. Also, if you're not aware, if this is the first time you're watching the channel, you're enjoying this, but you want to see a more comedic show, go over to the Ends Justify the Memes, which is the Wednesday show. It's a separate channel. We are there live 7 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday night, and I have a co-host, and we'd like to have guests on. Sometimes it's our audience. Sometimes it's other YouTubers. Just interesting folks. I had Kit Cope on there a while ago, who's a 4-time world Muay Thai kickboxing champion, because I got to meet Kit in person, and I was like, hey, dude, you want to come on my show? And he's like, yeah, I'll come on. So, we get people on. Are you going to show up tonight, Sten? I might. That'll be up to my whatever my wife and I are doing, and if we decide to have a drink or anything tonight, and how I'm feeling, man. And he's asking me for Sniper stream, so maybe I will show up on Sniper tonight. Last week we got to bed early, and was what it was. So, in any case, guys, thank you all for joining. Aydin, you have any parting shots?
No, just thanks as always for having me. Always fun to hang out, dude.
All right.
I wish we'd gotten
appreciate-
into more of the philosophy, but we do it next week.
Yeah, we will. We got all of August. All of August.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
There you go. And you know, next week I might be able to go for like 3 hours. So
Oh geez. All right. Well, I don't know.
hey, well, I mean, you can cut
I'll
it
get
out
more
at any time,
prepared.
I'm just
I'll
saying.
go read some more. I'll go read a whole bunch of philosophy.
There
Anyway,
you
thank
go.
you for inviting me as always, man. Always good to talk to you.
All right, appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. This has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.